Now we're going to go through what is bridging and how is bridging accomplished between different platforms. So it's first important to clarify that Ethereum itself is a layer 1 blockchain network, and Bitcoin is a layer 1 blockchain network, and Arbitrum and Optimism are all layer 2 blockchain networks. So everything that you see on the screen here, these are all different competing blockchains. And this shows you what the total value locked by blockchain is. And it gives you an idea of how much is actually locked away in smart contracts across different blockchains. So let's focus just on the most recent data. And you can see, so we have Ethereum, we have Binance Smart Chain, Tron, Solana. So these four, especially Tron, it's survived. It's survived from 2017, but the majority of these were created back in like 2019, 2020, 2021, and they're growing. They're growing in popularity. So these are the competing blockchains. Now, the value locked in each blockchain cannot be repurposed and reused in a different blockchain unless you shift those assets and you rotate that capital from one blockchain to another. And the way to do that, the way to accomplish that, is to actually go and bridge assets, right? And that's the whole point of today's topic, is to focus on bridging. So what you're trying to accomplish is you're trying to port over funds from layer 1 blockchains to other layer 1 blockchains, or from layer 1 blockchains to other layer 2 blockchains, or from layer 2 back to layer 1, or from layer 3 to layer 2 and layer 2 back to 1. And you also want to be able to have the ability to bridge assets from an Ethereum-based EVM blockchain like Arbitrum and Optimism to a non-EVM blockchain like Bitcoin and Litecoin and etc. And the way to do that is you have to first understand which blockchains are the most actively used. So this is a view of all of the leading layer 2 EVM-based blockchains. And you can see overall adoption has been absolutely skyrocketing. I mean, there's no question. Even if you denominate it in USD or ETH, it's just been steadily rising. So you have 12 million ETH cumulatively that have been locked away into contracts. And that includes canonically bridged, externally bridged, natively minted coins. And you can look at it just logarithmically. It even transforms the view to be even more bullish towards the prevalence and the importance of DeFi going into the future to improve scalability. And there's different scalability solutions that we'll go through in a different part of the course. But ultimately, you can see that Arbitrum controls the vast lion's share of the entire market in terms of level of activity and in terms of total value locked at almost 17 billion. And then followed by Optimism and followed by Base, right? Now, how do you bridge assets between these blockchains? Because these blockchains also contain tens of thousands of tokens each. So you can imagine that it's fairly difficult. So the way to bridge is you first have to understand the basics of bridging. So you have to understand the difference between a trusted bridge and a trustless bridge. So a trusted bridge, think of it as more of a centralized entity that you're really relying on them to be able to manage the operations and manage settlement. And you're assuming that there is implicit and explicit trust into that infrastructure. A trustless bridge, to me, is what the future is going towards, which is a truly decentralized trustless mechanism where you are shifting funds and settling assets that are being transferred and traversing across from one blockchain to another in a completely seamless, trustless way, at least in a trust minimized way. That's your goal, is to find a bridging solution that minimizes trust as much as possible. So let's go through some more details of that, right? So within, you can look at the bridge inflows by chain and also just keep an eye on what you see. So for here, we can see that back in April, on March 31st, 66 million was shifted out of Arbitrum and 161 million was bridged back to Ethereum, right? The main mothership. So that's interesting. It's an interesting trend. And something to just keep an eye on. These are the different bridges by chain, but you can also see the different bridges that are being used. So you can come here and see Stargate, Circle CCTP. So this is their new proprietary token bridging standard. And then they have Orbiter Finance across. Connext is the one that I like, and I respect this project tremendously. And there's Arbitrum Bridge, there's the Aptos Bridge, there's Optimism Gateway. So these are the main bridging solutions. You can see the cumulative volume being transferred. And then you can look at it for one specific blockchain if you're focusing on, Ethereum or Avalanche or Solana. So the ones that I use regularly are the ones like RocketX protocol. So RocketX protocol and RocketX exchange allows you to bridge between Ethereum to Bitcoin, or Ethereum to Polygon, or Ethereum to Base, Ethereum to Cosmos. It's tremendously powerful. The only challenge I've had with it is first of all, there's limits. You can't transfer anything beyond like 20 to 30,000. But you can break up the transactions into multiple orders, and that works perfectly fine. But there are times where sometimes the bridging transaction will fail and they won't really alert you unless you hard refresh the screen. And sometimes they don't alert you and you have to open up a ticket with the support. There's been a few concerning things, but the bridge, there are risks with bridging solutions, and it's important to take those into consideration and to remember that you are absorbing risk, right? I mean, there's no question whatsoever that there's going to be risks involved. Like, for example, if you're using RocketX or you're using any of the main prominent bridging solutions, there's a smart contract risk. There's a counterparty risk, like making sure that RocketX is being hosted on a centralized domain name service. It's being hosted on a centralized server. It's not using IPFS or some type of decentralized, storage network. So that could go down and you may be, in a position where your funds are stuck mid-transit. Think about like the transitory risk. There's censorship risk. There's like risks involved with, similar to the fact that it's centralized, is that there's custodial risk. And ultimately, I would say that it hasn't failed me other than the fact that there's been a few failed trades, a few failed transactions that have not been able to bridge over correctly and in time. But ultimately, it's done quite well. It's what I like about it is it's an aggregation-based bridging service, and to me that's clearly the future. It's like a trust minimized, trustless, aggregating, routing, and bridge settlement service. To me, that's the future. So this doesn't cover all of that, but it's an example of that. So that's RocketX, and literally what you would do to bridge over, let's say $0.01 of ETH into Doge. You're able to, it'll fetch a quote and it'll tell you, and then you just paste in what your Doge address is, and do not deposit directly into a centralized exchange. So deposit it into your own Dogecoin wallet itself. And again, this is not Dogecoin EVM or DOGE or Doge blockchain EVM token of Doge. It's the actual old school Doge address. So what you can do is you can bridge ETH to Doge, and in the network address, you can use the actual Dogecoin bridge, like the official bridge. And this bridge allows you to it'll give you an address. And then when you have the address, you can paste that directly into RocketX. And that allows you to bridge between ETH and Doge. So RocketX is incredible. Portal token is another very established, good solution tied with the wormhole. And so if I want to bridge from Base to Solana, as an example, or Ethereum to Solana, I would connect my wallet using MetaMask, which is what I did here, and you can see that. and I'll have all of my assets that are available that can be bridged over. Then I select the amount and then select what the recipient-based token would be on the Solana network. So for us, let's just stick to WETH. And then it's telling you very clearly, this route is provided by X Labs. And you can use two options. You use a manual bridge, where your ETH goes via the wormhole via to WETH as the final destination. And then you have to approve the destination in Phantom. Or you just go ahead and automatically execute the transaction using X Labs as a bridge, which is easier and slightly less expensive. But they both take around 15 minutes. And it's the same thing with RocketX. Roughly the settlement time is around 15 to 20 minutes. And you approve the transaction and you're on your way. Synapse Protocol is another one that I like to use that I think is brilliant. And it's been really one of my go-to platforms. This is slightly concerning why they have bridging on Optimism is temporarily paused. Like, this is my point around the censorship risk, custodial risk, like what if you executed a large transfer and then it's just being held in a state of limbo, and it's like in a holding period of like a purgatory kind of stage, right? Where it's a no man's land and you don't know when you're ever going to be able to get a reimbursement or have your funds back in your wallet. So, please be careful with these bridges. Another one is StealthEX. StealthEX is phenomenal for like atomic and non-atomic swaps, but the problem with StealthEX is it's unbelievably expensive from what I could see. They have quite a few undisclosed transaction processing fees and extra costs that only get accounted for after you actually execute the bridge transfer. So I would be very careful using StealthEX, but it is one of the more established solutions where you can bridge between Bitcoin to Monero, which is a privacy-based coin, Tron, Solana, and so forth. Other solution that I like is Aptos Bridge. The Aptos Bridge is amazing. And you can see that I have connected my Ethereum wallet and I've connected my Aptos wallet. So I have it all set up and you are good to go on that front. So it's fairly straightforward. It's really straightforward. Like there's nothing more to do beyond just connecting to an Aptos compatible wallet like Pontum. And once you do that, you just choose what token you want to transfer over. So let's transfer, $100 from the BNB chain onto Aptos, and we'll be able to just then execute the trade whenever we want to do that. And then you just transfer it, and that's it. It's as simple as that. So Symbiosis is another one that I like to use, but it's very limited in terms of actual like pairs. It has more support for Mantle and Linea, but it doesn't have it doesn't have Doge. It didn't have Solana when I last checked. So it doesn't have Solana. It doesn't have Doge. It doesn't have like some of the other layer one blockchains that I like to bridge from and to. So, but it is a fast growing bridge routing system. And it also has significant backers. So if you look at who is actually in Symbiosis, who supported them, it's quite a few people that are there. So I would definitely pay some attention to Symbiosis, and they're tokenized. And I'm very curious about where they're going to go from here and how they're going to grow. Another option is the Celer Network Bridge. So they are so close to being completely trust minimized and close to being trustless, but they're still, but they're not there yet, right? So I would look at experimenting with them. Their platform has never failed me. And then Connext is the one I was mentioning before, which is to me it's the closest to a trust minimized platform where you're bridging tokens and you're not relying on an external network of validating nodes and approved centralized parties. You're essentially, and you're also not relying on the minting / the issuance of tokens and the burning of tokens, vice versa between blockchain origin and blockchain destination, right? So you're relying on liquidity pools releasing some liquidity back to you as you being a recipient of that bridge transaction. So Connext is really, I think, incredibly powerful, and to me is a glimpse to what the future is going to look like. So I like Connext as a whole. Other options is the O Portal. This is limited, but at one time or another, it was okay. And then ChainSwap, and then Connext we reviewed. Layerswap is another potentially powerful one that has zk sync compatibility, which is not actually widely available yet, and is compatible with Starknet. So, and Zora. So some of these are interesting to me because you also have the compatibility with centralized exchanges. So to me, that's intriguing, right? I mean, that to me is very intriguing. So those are the ones that I like. And then Rango Exchange, the same. So there's so many solutions, there's so many options. Rubik Exchange is another one with significant investors and backers supporting it and really pushing it and promoting it actively. SimpleSwap is like an OG. It's been there for a long, long time. Allbridge is an established market leader for sure. And if you're looking to bridge basically between to get to the dGen layer 3 chain, which is running on top of a layer 2 blockchain that's running on top of Ethereum layer 1, you would use this dChain chain bridge that's running on top of Base, right? Those are the solutions. That's how bridging works. I hope you found this helpful.